psychology. Today we will be talking about chapter number 6. It's all about causes and cures of stereotyping, prejudice, and discrimination. These are the topic that are very much used, and we also know a lot of implications of these topics. So we will go in details of each topic. So let's go ahead. In this topic, we would be covering three major subtopics: the nature and origin of stereotyping. Then we would be talking about the prejudice, feelings towards the social groups. Then at the end, we would be talking about the discrimination, right? So let's go ahead. Before starting these sort of chapters, I would give some sort of sentences that are some sort of stereotypes in the minds of the people. So let's see what are the general stereotypes available. The first one is women aren't as smart as men. So this is one of the stereotype that we found surrounding us. The other, woman can't do as good of a job as a man. This is also one of the other stereotype that we've came across. The third, girls are not good at sports. This is the other stereotype. I mean, this is more, global stereotype that we found. Okay, Ji, then we have guys are messy and unclean. I mean, this is the other stereotype. I mean, we find a lot of guys so clean, neat, and perfect. Okay, the other stereotype globally available: all Arabs and Muslims are terrorists. I mean, this is something very much hurting to being a Muslim, right? This is also one of the stereotype that we come across. Then all Asian are good at maths. All Asian like to eat rice and drive slow. I mean, this is the other stereotype that we always came across, that Asian are very good at mathematics. I mean, a lot of time we may not be good at mathematics, but this is somehow the stereotype globally available. So you find a lot of stereotypes available. So today we would be talking about what is the origin of these stereotypes. How come these stereotypes are coming? The nature and stereotypes. Okay, ji, so let's see what are the origin and what are the stereotyping. Okay, we have three words mostly used interchangeably. Where the one word is the stereotyping, the other is prejudice, the third one is discrimination. Often we use these sort of three words interchangeably, though psychology has the sort of a different meaning of each word. I mean, these three are the different sort of categories that we would be defining in detail. Often we say this is the stereotype, this is the prejudice, we say this is the discrimination. We use interchangeably in our daily life, but today we will be learning what is the actual difference in these three terminologies. So let's go ahead with the stereotyping first. Okay, ji, the stereotyping are the cognitive component of attitudes. We talk about attitude. What is the attitude? Attitude means the evaluation of something. So the stereotyping are the cognitive in nature, that is in our mind, towards a social group consisting of the belief about what particular groups are like. Maybe we have some sort of positive stereotypes, some sort of negative stereotype. Maybe those stereotypes may not be maybe accurate or inaccurate. Maybe society accept it, maybe few of them do not accept it. So that's the definition of stereotyping. Now we would see what the meaning of the prejudice. Okay, the Prejudice is the sort of it's the affective components. We know what is the affective, right? Affective means feelings, affective means emotions. So stereotyping is sort of cognitive component, and prejudice is more sort of emotions, affective domain, that is the uh, feelings and emotions. So it's the affective component of the prejudice, the feelings we have about particular group, right? Then we will see what is the difference between the stereotype, prejudice, and discrimination. So discrimination is the behavioral component of the differential action taken towards the member of a specific social group. So here we come up the distinction between these all three major definitions. So once we have these stereotypes, means we have some sort of negative opinion about something that is cognitive in our brain. Once we have feeling about that thing, we have affective domain, that is prejudice. We have the feeling when we take some actions, that is the discrimination. So let me give one example to explain these all things. Okay, so we think that Muslims are terrorists. So this is one of the stereotype, right? So we have some sort of feeling. So feeling of, we know what are the emotions. We know love, hate, happiness, sadness. These all things are coming under the emotions and feelings. So one of the feeling that is coming for the Muslims are terrorists. Globally, people have the very hated feelings about that, and that's why they do discrimination to the Muslims. They show with their behavior, they discriminate the Muslim in airport, they let them to stand in rows, they do more checking to them. So stereotypings create bad feelings in our mind, and we then discriminate the person. So all clear? So let's go ahead and see more in details. Okay, so we talk about that's the cognitive stereotyping, and we talk about affective domain, that is affect the feelings, that is prejudice, and we talk about the behavior, that is the discrimination. So stereotyping, it's what is the stereotyping? It's only the belief. We have certain belief in our mind about some social group. Okay, belief about social groups in terms of shared characteristics, traits and characteristics. I mean, what are the traits and characteristics? It could be, let's suppose, like I shared that Asian are very good at maths. This is one of the trait of the Asian, that we have the stereotype. We can have some sort of characteristics like appearance characteristics, like we have North American and we have South American, right? North American are black in color and the South American are white in color. So we have some appearance, stereotyping, color stereotyping. So stereotyping is basically cognitive framework that influence the processing of social information. And then we will see in detail. Then we see one of the most renowned stereotype that we came across, being a female or being a male, gender stereotypes. We know we naturally born are different. Even a male and female both are naturally born very different. They possess very different traits and characteristics. Gender stereotypes concern traits possessed by female and male, and that distinguish the two gender from each other. We face a lot of gender stereotypes. We will discuss ahead. So we find many stereotypes here. We have some positive stereotypes for the woman, and we have some negative stereotypes for the woman. Same goes for the man. We have some positive stereotypes for the man and some negative stereotypes for the men. So mostly one of the famous stereotype that is being associated with the women are being, stereotyped and being known as so kind. They are nurturant, they nurture, they are very much considerate, they are very much considerate, they independent. Women are so much dependent. Then we have the other one that we have the stereotype, weak. Women are stereotyped as weak. Then last one is the overly emotional. They are treated as emotional. So the first one that we discuss and talk about, these are the positive. 4 of them of the positive, 2 are the negative, weak and overly emotional. Then we talk about the men. Men are more, decisive. They are assertive. They are accomplished. They are aggressive, insensitive, and arrogant. So these are certain stereotypes associated with man. I mean, arrogant and aggressive are negative one, and some other assertive, maybe some other partial negative, and the women are treated more kind and social. So through these stereotypes we have certain expectations from the both gender. If I'm a man, so I am expected to be so kind, I am expected to be so polite. If there is a man, so society is expecting them, they have to be very assertive, they have to be very much accomplished. And one of the things that we have to see in our society, that women are more dependent, right? So we expect from men to take responsibility of the woman. That's why majority of the earning sources of different Asian and different globally families being earned by the men. So we expect, this is the expectation from the men to do so. So we go ahead and see how these all stereotypes is going to affect us. Okay ji, then warmth and competence dimension, we are now talking about the women. We expect from women to be very much warm, and we found that women are not that much competent. Women are collectively seen as high in warmth but low in competence. Similarly to the other low status group who are not threat to the high status group. I mean the other group also who are having the low status. We have a lot of people who are doing a very lower category jobs in our society. They are also known as the lower status people. So woman is expected to be very much having a warmth, and they are not known as more competent. Then we have, when a group such as I have given example of the Nazi party, that how the low status people are going to be treated. When a group such as Jews in the Nazi Germany are seen as threat to the high status group, sometimes called the envious prejudice, those groups are stereotypes as a low in warmth but high in competence. I mean that group of the Jews were known, famous were they actually known as the high incompetence, but they were known as very less empathetic because they were not so much warm. So that was one of the stereotype for them. They were expected in that stereotype. Okay, now some basis for this optimism. How we are saying that this, how women are having a high in worth and low in competence, they are treated, they are being discriminated because of this thing. So I have given one of the example here. This is one of the example of the MIT professor. Female professors at MIT found they were systematically awarded less research support and lower salaries than their male colleague. Yet other studies show few gender differences in the actual career success at large companies. So this is the one of the evidence is how women are being discriminated because of they are known as the low in competence. Women do experience more obstacles. They face a lot of obstacles in their way. They face a lot of difficulties, especially exclusion from informal networks, securing the developmental assignment, but some arrival nevertheless. So the overall point of view here to discuss this example is women are being known as low competence, so they are treated, they are being discriminated because of that trait. Now, the other issue that women face is known as glass ceiling. What is the glass ceiling concept? Glass ceiling, from the name you find glass, something apparent is there. Ceiling is something that is floor. Glass ceiling, something I can see but I cannot reach. So this is some sort of barrier to the woman career for the higher positions. What it is? When a woman, if there is a woman and there is a man for the manager position, currently they are assistant manager and they are to be promoted for the managerial position. So men and women, men are being promoted more quickly than women. Women feel the glass ceiling. That is the concept we are talking about. They are not being promoted, they face that issue. So what is the glass ceiling? It's the barriers based on attitudinal and organizational bias that prevent women from advancing to the top level position. A lot of time we see women cannot be the manager. How would they would manage the main dominant society? So they are given a very less opportunity. So that concept is called sort of glass ceiling concept. I have given some facts about that. We have almost 19% women working in USA, 19% in the higher category jobs. Overall, they work more than 50%, right? 1% in the US women are CEO. It's the reference from 500 Fortune company. Means out of 500 companies, only 1% companies having a woman as a CEO. I mean, this is the biggest glass ceiling concept that we see even in the most developed countries. Despite being higher than men in likability, women are being liked more, but women traits are viewed as less appropriate for higher status position. So that is what we are talking about, glass ceiling. And women are often rejected when violate stereotyped respect, also a factor. This is one thing that I would like to give the sort of more details about this. How women are often rejected. Why women are often rejected when they violate stereotypes? I mean, what? If women perform authoritative roles, she is rejected and disliked because she is known as warm. Now society is expecting women to be more warm, to be more polite. When woman is giving a sort of higher position, once they break that stereotype, that women cannot be at the higher position, they are less competent. Once they break this stereotype and they come towards the authoritative position, a lot of people don't like that. A lot of colleagues, a lot of their subordinates do not like them because they are known as warm and polite. Once they perform this authoritative role, society do not accept them. So you see how stereotyping is creating issue for the people who have came across these all stereotypes. Okay, जी. So another interesting concept there we have gender stereotype is the concept glass cliff. This is something very interesting, opposite to the glass ceiling. Now this concept states that choosing women for leadership position that are risky, precautious, or when the outcome is more likely to result in the failure. I mean, this is something interesting to talk. Glasscliff concept says when there is a very risky position of the company, when there is a crisis situation in the company, then women are preferred to be at the higher position, not the men. So one of the research was done. So they give this sort of complete detail. This is also available in the textbook that we are following. Are women most likely to be appointed to leadership position under risky condition? I mean, this is something very interesting. So this is, you can go to, you can read this out. So I am just going how the Glasscliff concept is. Organizational unit to be managed is in crisis rather than when it is running smoothly. This is one of the survey was conducted from the people in the colleague. They give sort of their responses that if there is a crisis situation, woman is more suitable to be appointed at the higher position. Financial director for the large company to be hired when the company is on the downward. An attorney is appointed to a legal case that is doomed to fail. A director for the music festival is selected when it is declining in the popularity. So we are supposed to appoint the woman when we find these conditions. A political candidate is selected to run when election is unwinnable versus certain to win. I mean, a CEO hired for the supermarket chain that is losing money and closing a store. I mean, this is something that we have to think. That is the Glasscliff concept, opposite to the glass ceiling. Then we see the other concept, consequences of the tokenism. You know what is the token? Token is something additional that we do. If we see the concept into the stereotypes with respect to gender, tokenism can be called the quota system. Women are sometimes being hired to see the quota system, like in our parliament system we have 3 to 2% quota reserved for the women. So these are sort of tokenism, right? Quota system also known as tokenism. What are the consequences? I mean, if we are hiring women on the basis of tokenism, then what is supposed to be the outcome? Where only, I mean, what is the tokenism? I am explaining here. Where only a few members of previously excluded groups are admitted. It could be the woman, it could be the other group that is previously excluded. Tokenism can be effective strategy for deterring protest by disadvantaged group. Sometimes we find a lot of protests when there is a very less woman in the company. A lot of women do protest. They do protest that why we are not here. So people apply this quota system to make them satisfied and happy. So this is the effective strategy that is helpful for you to protect you from protest. Then it can be used as the evidence that employer are not really prejudiced and maintain the perceptions that system is fair. Once we are doing a tokenism, so we are giving a message to the system that system is fair. We are giving opportunity to each minority, right? Then being a token employee can be upsetting and damaging to the self-esteem. I mean, this is something that we need to discuss in detail. If person is being hired because of tokenism, how it is going to consequent? What is the consequence of it? Being a token employee means you are being hired because of the quota system, and it's going to damage your self-esteem. How? how it's going to damage your self-esteem. A lot of people think that this person is being selected because of the quota system, so they do not possess a lot of competency. A lot of employee in the organization started to feel that they are not so much competent, so they lose their self-esteem. Tokens are perceived negatively by their co-worker, because co-workers think that they are not hired or they are not giving opportunities because of merit system. They are giving opportunities because of the tokenism, because of the token system. Okay, are gender stereotypes accurate? I mean, this is, we need to see. We find a lot of stereotypes regarding gender, that women are less competent, men are a bit messy. Now we are talking about, are they accurate? Do they really accurate or not? There are some differences between male and female with respect to various aspects of the behavior, but generally the magnitude is much smaller than prevailing stereotypes suggest. A lot of people exaggerate the thing. I mean, the magnitude is very lesser. I mean, if people are saying that women are not competent, I mean, the magnitude is so much smaller. People are exaggerating the things. I mean, this is not the wholly solely accurate. Then, this is something that I have quoted. This is one of the example is related to your people who are being selected because of the tokenism. Okay, I have given an example. This is taken from your book. Believing you are selected strictly based on the gender leads to underperformance. When women were told that they given one of the sort of survey, they conducted one of the experiment in which they checked the performance of the people. I mean, those people who were selected on quota, few people were selected on the merit system, and few people were given no information that how they are selected. So when women were told that you are selected on quota system, their leadership performance was reduced compared to when they believed their qualification also played a role in their selection, or when no information was given about why they were made leader. When women were told that we are going to hire you because of the quota system, so this is the leadership performance quality. So there, because once they were told that you are hired because of the quota system, their performance decreased. You see, the performance is so low. Once they were told that you are selected because of the open merit system, their performance increased. Once they were given no information why we hire you, we maybe hire you because of merit, maybe because of quota, no information were given, even their performance was very good. So what this research is telling us, that once we share this thing to the person that we are hiring you because of the quota system, your co-worker started to have the negative thinking about them, and they decreased their self-esteem and they could not perform. So this is the negative consequence about the tokenism. So let's go ahead. Okay, now the interesting question here is: stereotyping absent if members of the different groups are rated same? A lot of time, once we are a lot of different groups of the people are working together, a lot of time different groups of the people are working. I mean, in one of the American organization, black people are working, white people are working, male staff is working, female staff is working, and the manager is giving them same rating. They are being rated same. So do you think there is a no stereotyping because they are rated same? Let's find out the answer of this question. Same does not necessarily mean equal. How? I mean, even managers are giving the same rating to both employees, but yet same is not necessarily the equal rating. They use different sort of tricks. Maybe they use some sort of different standards to measure. So we see all. The first thing, shifting the standards. How they use different standards. Even when the same evaluation ratings are given to the members of the different group, it does not mean that stereotypes are not influencing those ratings, nor will the same identical rating translate to the behavioral expectations. They use different sort of standards. I mean, they use some sort of different wording to their subjective remarks. In our evaluation system, we have some part of the objectivity. We give some sort of rating in terms of numbers, and some part is given to the subjectivity, where manager gives some sort of wording, good, better. They, in that situation, manager also face stereotyping. They use different standards to rate the people. They use subjective scales open to interpretation. Now, I mean, good to bad and weak to strong. I mean, what is the meaning of good and what is the meaning of bad? Sometimes this employee worked good, this employee worked fair. I mean, this is somehow the other standard that we are evaluating here. Sometimes they use sort of objective scales, measurement units. Objectivity, we know what is meant by objectivity, where there is a categories and numbers. Dollars earned per year versus earning a lot. So you see, here we are using dollar earned per year, fixed amount, and here we are using he earned a lot. I mean, we are not specifying. We are using a different standard for different sort of employee. Even we are facing stereotypes. Then sometimes we do within group comparison. We make a ranking. We see employee A is better than employee B, and employee B and employee A are even lesser than employee C. So we make a comparison. Here we also face stereotyping. Even we rate them same, but we use some sort of different standards to rate them. So here also stereotyping is available, not absent, right? Okay, so we have now the interesting question: why do people form and use stereotypes? I mean, why they do that? Stereotypes often act as schemas. I mean, you know what is schemas? Let me give you time to recall. Did you? Okay, schema is some sort of structured knowledge that we have about something. Stereotype is same, that we have some knowledge about something that is structured in our mind. They use saves cognitive efforts. They serve motivational purposes. We know that once we have schemas about something, they are stored in our mind, so we quickly recall it. How stereotypes operate? I mean, how they are operated? They are easily accessible because they always activated. They strongly affect how social information is processed. We know schemas help us to retrieve the information. So stereotypes also help us to give meaning to the information. Information related to an activated stereotype is remembered better. We know that once we have some stereotype about something, and once something added to the same stereotype, so we remember that thing in a better way. Stereotype consistent information is more likely to be noticed. So we create additional information based on our present stereotype in our mind. So accessible, they are more likely to be accessible, and they are easily to be operated, and they are sort of quickly recover and recall the other information because something is available in our brain and we are just noticing it, right? Now the other question is, do stereotype ever change? What do you think? We have one stereotype that women are, dependent. So this stereotype ever changed? Or we think that one of the stereotype that we have, women cannot play sports. So this is also one of the stereotype. Do you think that it will ever change or it won't change? Any guess? Okay, let's see. Change may result when relationships between groups and corresponding behaviors change. I mean, these relationships need to be relationship between groups and corresponding behaviors change. Means we need to change the corresponding behavior. Then it is likely to be changed. Otherwise, it's difficult. Change may result if in-group favoritism becomes socially unacceptable. In-group favoritism. I mean, when something becomes socially unacceptable, there is one of the stereotype is called the woman cannot play sports. In-group means the people who are male. Male society think that women cannot play sports. I mean, once this thing becomes socially unacceptable, then this stereotype can be changed. Otherwise, then we have change may result when social values and group members change, membership change, since the stereotypes justify unequal social conditions. For example, people with the power are more likely to attend to negative stereotype information about the members of the subordinate groups, right? So this is how we can change it. What are your thoughts? These are some questions for you that you need to do practice at your home. Why don't men typically face the glass ceiling? This is same glass ceiling that women do. Why don't men typically face this? The other question, what are the consequences of the stereotyping for accurate social perception? Would you like to be judged on the basis of a stereotype about your group membership? Why or why not? You just give your opinion about this question, and then you do practice at your home. Now then you would be coming with your own interesting answer and thoughts. So we go with the different topic now. Okay, so we are here with the same topic, and that was the question related to the topic. When we encounter someone who belongs to a group about whom we have the stereotype, and this person do not seem to fit to the stereotype. Let's suppose we are saying we have the stereotype, that is one of the stereotype, girls is playing sport. So we have stereotypes, girls cannot play sports. Will ever this stereotype ever changed? Will it change or not? Okay, that we call some interesting thing. We call it subtypes. When the individual represent an extreme disconfirmation of the stereotypes, means stereotypes are not revised, we place that person in special category called the subtypes. We do not change our stereotype. We just put that person into special category. If let's suppose, if I see one girl is playing wonderful sports. So I put that girl in a special category, that this girl is very special. I mean, usually girls do not play sports. We do not change the stereotype. You see, changing a stereotype is very much difficult. Then we have the other part of this chapter, prejudice. We talk about prejudice. What is prejudice? This is some sort of feelings toward the social group. Whereas the stereotype was the cognitive in nature, and prejudice is some sort of feelings about that person. Emotions. Prejudice, negative attitude towards the member of the specific social group. People high in prejudice towards certain group tend to process information about that group differently compared to the information about other groups. It is not personal or based on individual traits. I mean, prejudice is not based because of that single person. We have bad feeling about something. We hate. Let's suppose I hate Mubina because she is Muslim. They do not hate Mubina. They hate Muslims. So it's not related to the personal and individual traits. They dislike the person because that person belongs to that group. They do not hate Mubina, they hate Muslims. That's why they are having a sort of prejudice against the Muslims. So this is not a personal, this is belong to the groups. Information consistent with the prejudice attitude is given more attention and it's remembered better. As we already discussed that prejudice give us more remembered information. So this is a Muslim, that's why he did it, so we recall in a better way. Okay, so something interesting that now we would be discussing. When anger in the emotion underlying prejudice towards a group, prejudiced person quickly evaluate that group negatively when they are angry. Now, one of the research was conducted. They just find a people once they were neutral, once they were sad, and once they were angry. So let's see. There is one of the term that we call the accidental feelings. When we are in angry, we generate automatic prejudiced responses towards out group. Once we are in anger, so we have the response become more active. It's not relevant to the group, but it is relevant to the feelings that we have. So this was the research that was done. Let me explain it first. So here you find that there is the one is the out group, the other is the in group. Out group, let's suppose out group is the group that is the female group, and in group is the group that is the male group. So we have two groups. Out group is related to the male and in group related to female. So male are going to evaluate the female. They are evaluating them. There is the reaction time, how they are going to evaluate them. Once they were neutral, once they were sad, once they were angry. Now when out group had a bad, so once out group was bad, when out group was bad, in group was good, and in group quickly they take very less time to quickly evaluate them. Once they were angry, once they were bad, they took very lesser time and quickly evaluate them. Right? Now we see in this category, once out group was good, in group was bad, and out group took a lot of time. they took a lot of time to give the positive evaluation. So you see the reaction time. They took a lot of time to give the positive feedback to this out group when it was good. When it was bad, they took very lesser time. Once it was good, they took a lot of time to make evaluation. So to conclude, people are slower to learn positive evaluation of the out group when angry than when they are not. Once they are angry and the out group is bad, so they quickly evaluate it. Once they are in an angry mood, they took a lot of time to evaluate them in a positive way. So this is something that we need to face, that how prejudice work in our mind. Now a lot of time we find a lot of implicit association. What is the implicit? We know so there is something that is explicit, there is something that is implicit. Explicit, something very exposed, very much known, and implicit is something very much hidden and which is not very much vivid, which is not clear. So we see what is the implicit associations. It can be implicit prejudice. Now we are talking about the implicit prejudice. I mean, sometimes we don't expose the prejudice, but we have prejudice inside us that is implicit in nature. So it can be triggered in a seemingly automatic manner as a result of in-group and out-group categorization. So once we face in-group and out-group categorization, so we automatically face that. Once we came across in front of men and we are female, so we automatically face this sort of prejudice. The important point about such implicit prejudice that we are going to talk, prejudice, it is we may not be aware of it. Implicit prejudice, where we are not aware about it, although our judgments and decision about other people and how we interact with them can be influenced. Even we are not aware that do we have that sort of prejudice against some sort of group. Maybe the group is Muslim group, maybe the group is male group, maybe the group is some sort of other group, which is the out group. Now out group means the every category that is different from our group, that we can call the out group, right? So even we are not aware, but yet our decision and judgments are going to influence them. This is something implicit in our mind, but yet this is affecting our decisions. How? So let's see how we are going to consider here one of the example. Consider the decision made by the white participants in a simple game video about whether to shoot or not shoot either black or white targets. So white people were giving a video game in which they give two sort of things. Let me explain it now. There is a race of the person in photo. These are the white people, these are the black people, and game is being played by the white people, and this is the number of the errors per 20 trials. Now participants played a video game in which they were supposed to shoot a man if he was holding a gun. Now white people who were playing game, they were said that you have to shoot the person who is having a game and withhold a fire if he was holding a harmless object such as a cell phone. If anyone is having a gun or cell phone, you have to shoot it. As the data graph showed, players were equally likely to shoot an armed white man, but much more likely to shoot black man who was unarmed, likely the man in the photo. Now we would see here. Now you see, there is a person who is holding a sort of there is something that he is holding, maybe phone or something the like. Well, so you see here, the person, the people in the game are black, the people in the game are white. Now people are playing white, so we have to shoot a people who are armed. So they took very lesser time, they did a very lesser mistakes to shoot the black people in the armed, because they are white people, so they were making errors to shoot them, but they were not making errors to shoot the black armed people. You see the number of errors per trial. So the errors are very less when they were shooting the black armed people, once they were shooting the black unarmed people, because the target was to shoot the armed people. They were not shooting the white armed people. They were making a mistakes, but they were not making a mistake to shoot the black people. So this example give us conclusion that even though we are playing a game in which we have white people and black people, since we are white, so we find white people are our own, so we cannot kill them. Black people are the outgroup people, so we are making no errors to kill them. So we are killing them quickly and shooting them quickly. So our decision is being influenced. This is the something implicit in our mind, right? We are not explicitly saying something, but this is something implicit in our mind. Now we talk about the origin of the prejudice. What is the origins of the prejudice? How prejudice come? From where it come? Generally, perception of the threats are involved. Prejudice basically came when we face the threat. Threat of what? Now let's see further. Threat to the self-esteem. Whenever in-group people feel threat to the self-esteem, so they feel a sort of prejudice. Prejudice means bad feeling, or maybe feeling of hatred, maybe feeling of something the like. We feel sort of prejudice once there is a competition for the scarce resources. The third thing that we have, self-categorization as a member of the group and other as a member of different group. So we face the prejudice. This is the origin. The origin of prejudice is the threat to lose the self-esteem, threat to lose the scarce resources, and threat of the self-categorization. Means we will talk in detail about these all three main things. So let's further discuss. Threat to self-esteem. Now once we talk about the threats to the self-esteem, how? We know what is self-esteem. Self-esteem means believe on yourself. Holding prejudiced attitudes towards an outgroup allow people to increase their self-esteem. This tendency is stronger among those who think their group interests are being threatened. Let's assume you are watching a cricket match, you are Pakistani, and there is other people who are Indian playing Pakistan and India cricket match. Now you are supporting the Pakistani team because you are Pakistani, right? So you have bad and hatred feelings for India. Here your self-esteem is at risk. That's why you are feeling prejudice. A lot of time we hate Indian players when they are playing very good. We become sad once we are losing cricket match. So here we face prejudice because of the self-esteem. We feel bad once we lose from the India because that's the self-esteem is threat. So threat to the self-esteem, that actually create some sort of derogations of that group, and we need to maintain that position and self-esteem is restored. So this is how we require the sort of This is there is the threat to our self-esteem. That's why we are having the prejudice against the Indian cricket team. So a lot of time we wear same shirts to support our in-group people, and we wanted to show them. I find the Pakistani cricket team, but I couldn't, so I just put this picture just to make you sure that we are supporting in group our people, we are supporting them, and that's why wearing their same color t-shirts. Okay, the other thing that we were discussing about the competition for the resources is a scare of the prejudice. The other thing where we feel prejudice, where we feel bad feelings, we call it the realistic conflict theory. It's given by the Bobo in 1983. Prejudice stemmed from the direct competition between various social groups over the scarce and valued resources. We have the prejudice because of that scarce resources. How? We assume that zero sum game. How zero sum game? Means if I get the resources, you don't get. So that is a zero sum game. If you get the resources, so I won't get it. So we have zero sum concept here. That's why we feel very bad. So example that I am quoting here, the example of Pakistan and India conflict over the Kashmir. Kashmir is known as very much abundant in the natural resources. So that's why we are having a very bad negative prejudice against the Indian because of that natural resources. We do not want to give it, because once they get, we don't get it. If we get it, they don't get it. So this is how we are getting. We feel a lot of prejudice that Indians are bad and this and that. We feel like this, right? Then other thing, okay, the point that we are saying, how we can reduce this competition. There is one of the solution that is given in the book. This prejudice can be reduced if cooperation is necessary, that we call the superordinate goals are introduced. Now, what are the superordinate goals? Superordinate goals are the shared goals. We say that you both have to work together to achieve this goal. If let's suppose UN say to Pakistan and India that you both have to resolve the Kashmir issue. If you both do not resolve the Kashmir issue together, so we do not give you the membership in the UN. Now they both have to work together at any cost in order to not lose the membership of the UN. So that becomes the superordinate goal for the Pakistan and India. So they can create some sort of superordinate goal. So this can reduce this prejudice. Then that would become the sort of positive for both of us to achieve our goal. So this goal is shared between both of the countries. So we see the third part. That was the role of social categorization. What is the social categorization? The concept we call us versus them. We say we are us and them concept is called the social categorization. How we make this social categorization? I mean, this social categorization can be made in a lot of ways. I mean, people easily divide the social groups called the in groups versus out groups. And how we have that considered the us category, and people consider part of us category are thought of the favorable than those of them. Whenever we say it's the us category, so we become more favorable to that category. This is the generally concept that we have. How do we make this categorization? So it's based on race, religion, sometimes age, gender, occupation, income, status, and so on. There are a lot of things on the basis of which we make a categorization. Now, if you are the business students, so you assume business students are, you feel more favorable for your business students because you are business students. So you see engineering is not good, we are superior, so we are good. So this become the concept of us and them. So there come the one of the most famous theory, that is the attribution error. We already discussed about it. This process affect the attributions people. Ultimate attribution attribute. What does it tells? Tendency to make more favorable and flattering attributes about the members of own group then other members of other group, which is self-serving attribution bias at the group level. We always support our group. This is the self-serving bias that we always face. That's why we have this sort of prejudice. Whenever we make a teams, this is the boys team, this is the girls team. So even in unconscious or conscious way, we started, if I am in the female team, so that's the self-serving bias, I would be supporting my female team. Then I would be having the prejudice, hatred and bad feeling about the boys team. That's the prejudice that we are having because we have created the social categorization, right? Now the last topic of this chapter that we are going to discuss is the discrimination. Now how discrimination is, we know discrimination is behavioral. We do actions, we perform some actions because of the, that's why we have written here prejudice in action, because feelings in action. If I have a bad feeling about one group of the people, so I would be discriminating that group, right? So we have the differential treatment, usually negative one, behavior towards the member of the different social groups. Negative actions are decreased. Yes, now I am talking about negative actions are decreased because of the laws and social pressure. A lot of people are, a lot of people avoid to discriminate. Even they are discriminating, so they create a lot of protective measure. Once they do not hire a lot of women, so they create quota system and they say to the people that yes, we are giving equal chance to every individual and all. So because of the law, this discrimination has increased, but it is yet there. And there is one of the things that we have to see, measuring the implicit racial attitude. How we can measure that implicit racial attitude? So there are some sort of techniques through which we can identify do people are really discriminating people because of the racial stereotypes. There's one of the technique called the bona fide pipeline. In this technique we use the priming. You know what is the priming? Priming effect. Can anybody recall it? Priming effect, we recall, we do some sort of recent thing, and once one recent thing happen, then we connect that recent thing with the current thing and we ultimately do that, right? So using stimulus to make accessible related information in the memory to measure the implicit and attitude. Sometimes we see a lot of bona fide pipeline technique in which we give a sort of stimulus to the person in order to identify their implicit racial discrimination. In this technique we do that. Let's suppose we are giving a sort of recency thing to the person and we are asking to the manager that do you think that African people are very hardworking? And one day before we shown them a video that African people are not really hardworking. and the other day we are just asking them and giving them, please rate the Russian people, African people, and the American people. So their implicit racial attitude would be identified, that how they are going to use this. Research suggests that people have implicit racial attitudes automatically elicited by the member of the racial or ethnic group, which can influence important forms of the behavior. So this is how. There is other concept, that is the Bogot pipeline. I mean, this measures the explicit attitude, and bona fide pipeline measure the implicit racial attitude. Then you can go. Now we find we have a lot of discrimination. Nowadays we do not create the explicit discrimination. The discrimination has been decreased, but it still does occur the subtle form of the discrimination. What is that? It's called the modern it's called the modern type of discrimination that we face. A lot of people have the racism kind of thinking. Is the belief that it's the more subtle belief that blatant feelings of the superiority, which consistent primarily of the thinking minorities are seeking and receiving more benefits than they deserve, and denial that discrimination affect their outcome. Means we have that internal feeling inside us that minorities people are getting a lot of benefits than us. We do not explicitly say in front of people, but this is the modern sort of discrimination in our mind, that we are not very much we are not racial, we do not agree with the sort of discrimination sort of things. But there is a modern thing that is nowadays, it is implicit inside us, the feeling that minority is giving more benefits than us. If we have this feeling, this is available nowadays. Here we conceal the prejudice, we involve concealing the prejudice, we hide the prejudice, we do not express in front of the public. Now the last one that we are going to discuss, when we confront, once we are going to face the people of our group have done sort of discrimination, then how we are going to tackle in that situation. Exposure to the harmful action of the member of our own national group can realize the collective guilt. Let's suppose Muslim has done something. Actually, if one Muslim have done something wrong, this creates the collective guilt for all Muslim community. So we are going to discuss some sort of strategies. If this happen, then how we can reduce it. Argue that it is not the group as whole that is responsible. It is not only a few, it is only few bad apples. So we need to give a sort of justification that only few people are bad people, not all the people are very bad people. If this happen, collective guilt happen with you or in our surroundings, if your group member have done something wrong, so how we can tackle in that situation. Minimize the magnitude of the harm done. If your group, any member of your group, in group, has done something bad, so you need to reduce the magnitude of the harm. Mitigate the harm that was done. You can even legitimize. How we can legitimize this? Legitimize is related to the legal terminologies. Like how we can legitimize? Deny the possibility of the collective responsibility. We deny, we are not responsible. We are individuals. Everyone has their own wish and whims. So how you say that I am responsible for whatever happened? There was some biggest event of the history, 9/11, World Trade Center attack, where they say that Muslims did attack on World Trade Center on 9/11. So there were the few bad people who did it. We don't know either they were the Muslims or not, but the majority of the American think that these were the Muslims. That why from that day people started to think that the Muslims are the terrorists. So we can deny the collective responsibility. So we are not the responsible. Sometimes blame the victim by suggesting they deserve being harmed. Blame the victim game is very much, critical to explain. Let me try. I mean, sometimes when there is an issue of the rapes in our society, so a lot of time once we do not do anything, so we say this is the mistake of that person, because she was dressing in a bad way, because she was coming late at night, that's why this thing happened to her. Blame the victims can be one of the strategy in which we can reduce our collective guilt. And the perceive the abuse as serving the nation higher aspiration. Now I have quoted few of the questions for you. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts about something, about this discrimination? What are possible motivation behind the prejudice? What are possible motivation? This is one of the questions that you need to elaborate. How does it originate in the people? How does it originate? We discussed about the fear was one of the factors from which that would. How does it originate? Second question: can modern racism result in serious negative consequences for the groups towards which is expressed? If so, what are the examples? You need to identify such examples. What are examples of how the people of a nation reduce their collective guilt in response to the information that members of their nation group engaged in harmful prejudicial acts? I mean, you need to find examples. So thank you very much for listening me patiently, and I would upload some questions on the discussion forum where you need to address it.